Thursday marks 20 years since Princess Diana was killed in a car crash inside a Paris tunnel.
An off-duty French ER doctor was the first on the scene to help the princess, and he tells CBS 4's
the conspiracy theories, as I call them, were all basically rubbish. It was a very simple accident: speed, collision, bouncing off the embankment, and pillar 13.
For decades, the world has been captivated by the tragic and untimely death of Princess Diana. Conspiracy theories, unanswered questions, and lingering doubts have kept her story alive.
The method of her dying, essentially pursued by the media who pursued her in life, was something that touched a sort of and resonated.
But now, shocking new details from her autopsy report have surfaced. Details that could change everything we thought we knew. Was there more to that fateful night in Paris? Could hidden truths finally be coming to light? Stay tuned as we uncover the most explosive revelations about Princess Diana's mysterious final moments. The tragic night that shook the world. In the early hours of Sunday morning, the world was shaken by the shocking news that Diana, Princess of Wales, had died in a devastating car crash in Paris. The 36-year-old princess was traveling with her close companion, Dodi Fayed, when their car, a black Mercedes, lost control at high speed and crashed inside an underground tunnel near the Seine River. Dodi Fayed, the 41-year-old son of Harrods owner Mohammed Al Fayed, and the car's driver, Henry Paul, died on the spot. The princess, however, was found alive amid the wreckage. Emergency responders worked tirelessly to free her from the twisted remains of the vehicle before rushing her to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital in the southeast of the city. Initial medical reports suggested she had suffered a concussion, a broken arm, and deep cuts on her thighs.
There'd been the accident, she had been badly hurt but didn't know how badly she'd been hurt.
But the full extent of her injuries was far worse. She had sustained massive internal chest trauma. Despite desperate attempts by doctors to save her life, including a grueling 2-hour effort to restart her heart, Diana succumbed to her injuries at 4 a.m. local time. By 4:53 a.m., the tragic news was officially announced to the world. French Interior Minister Jean-Pierre Chevènement confirmed her passing outside the hospital, followed by British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook, who, in a somber statement from the Philippines, expressed his deep shock. "Our first thoughts must be with her children and family at this time of immense loss," he said, as the world struggled to come to terms with the unimaginable. That fateful night had begun with Diana and Dodi enjoying a romantic evening in Paris. They had dined at the Michelin 2-star restaurant inside the Ritz Hotel, a luxurious establishment owned by Dodi's father. The plan was to retire to a private villa across the Seine in the exclusive 16th arrondissement for the rest of the night. However, their journey was plagued by the relentless pursuit of paparazzi, photographers eager to capture images of the world's most famous woman. To avoid the flashing cameras, the couple made a quick and discreet exit from the Ritz just after midnight. They stepped into a waiting black Mercedes, driven by Henry Paul, a hotel employee. Bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones accompanied them. But as soon as the car sped away, the paparazzi followed, tailing them aggressively on motorcycles. Barely minutes into their escape, tragedy struck. As the Mercedes entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the driver lost control. The speeding vehicle smashed into a concrete pillar, then ricocheted off the right-hand wall, leaving it mangled beyond recognition. Witnesses described a scene of chaos, twisted metal, shattered glass, and the eerie silence that follows disaster. Emergency services arrived within minutes, battling against time to rescue the passengers. Dodi Fayed and Henry Paul were declared dead on the scene. The bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, miraculously survived but suffered severe injuries. Diana, critically wounded but still alive, was carefully removed from the wreckage and rushed to the hospital. Upon arrival, doctors found that she was bleeding heavily from her chest. A desperate fight ensued to stabilize her, but her condition worsened. Surgeons worked tirelessly, performing emergency operations and applying heart massage for nearly 2 hours, but the injuries were too grave. Her heart, damaged beyond repair, would not restart. At 4 a.m., the princess was gone. Dr. Bruno Rioux, the head of intensive care, later confirmed that she had died from massive internal bleeding due to severe chest and lung injuries. The world, still reeling from the shocking news, struggled to comprehend how such a bright light had been extinguished in mere moments. By Monday afternoon, French authorities revealed a shocking detail. Henri Paul, the driver of the ill-fated Mercedes, had a blood alcohol level far exceeding the legal limit. This revelation sparked even more questions. Had he been drinking that night?
We found that alcohol can cause a slowing down of any reaction. So obviously, while you're driving, even a very small amount of alcohol may cause the slowing down reaction.
Was the crash a result of reckless driving, or were the pursuing paparazzi partially to blame? 7 photographers were taken into custody for questioning as the investigation sought to piece together what had truly happened in those final moments. Princess Diana's tragic passing left the world in mourning. A mother, a humanitarian, and a beloved figure, her death felt deeply personal to millions across the globe. Even today, the circumstances of that fateful night continue to be a topic of discussion, speculation, and sorrow. After her death, an autopsy was carried out on her. The outcome of the autopsy streamlined the conspiracy theories surrounding her death. Let's delve into the details of what led to her tragic death. A rare injury, a simple solution. In the world of forensic pathology, few names carry as much weight as Dr. Richard Shepherd, Britain's foremost expert in the field. With decades of experience examining the causes of untimely deaths, he has unraveled countless medical mysteries. Yet, in 2019, he made a discovery that even he found astonishing. His investigation into the tragic death of Princess Diana led him to an unexpected conclusion. The injury that claimed her life was not one of the obvious, catastrophic wounds typically seen in high-speed crashes. Instead, it was something shockingly small, a minuscule tear in a vein within her lung. At first glance, such an injury might seem insignificant. There were no massive external wounds, no immediately apparent cause for her life slipping away. Yet this tiny rupture proved fatal. In his book, Unnatural Causes, excerpted in the Daily Mail, Shepherd admitted that, despite having conducted thousands of autopsies over the years, he had never encountered another case quite like this. It was a medical rarity, so rare, in fact, that it bordered on the impossible. But what makes this revelation all the more haunting?
By one of the nurses, and he came back in tears, really, and came up to me and said, "I'm afraid she's dead." But then after we had heard that she had died, then I was on the phone.
Is the fact that Diana's death was not written in stone. It was not inevitable. In fact, it could have been prevented with a simple, everyday action: fastening a seatbelt. Dr. Shepherd revealed that had Diana been securely strapped in that night, her injuries would have been serious but far from life-threatening. She might have ended up with a black eye, a few broken ribs making it painful to breathe, and perhaps a fractured arm confined to a sling. Painful, yes. Traumatic, undoubtedly. But fatal? Number. Instead of a global tragedy that left the world in mourning, the accident could have been just another unfortunate crash. A terrifying ordeal, but one from which she would have walked away. Within days, she might have even appeared before cameras, bruised but smiling, her legendary poise intact. The cruel irony of that fateful night is underscored by the survival of the only person in the car who did buckle up: Diana's British bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones. He suffered severe facial injuries, but he lived. His survival was not luck, nor was it fate. It was the simple, undeniable power of a small precaution, the decision to click a seatbelt into place. His continued existence stands as a painful reminder of what might have been, of the life that could have been spared. The idea that something as minor as a seatbelt, something millions of people fasten without a second thought every day, could have rewritten history, makes Diana's death even more difficult to process. It forces us to confront a sobering reality. Sometimes, the difference between life and death is not found in grand gestures or dramatic interventions. Sometimes, it is as simple as a single choice.
As dawn breaks on the day of Princess Diana's funeral, the crowds are already gathering on the streets of London.
Princess Diana's passing was a loss that sent shockwaves through the world, leaving an enduring sense of heartbreak. But her story also serves as a reminder of life's fragility and how, in the face of fate's unpredictability, the smallest precautions can tip the scales toward survival. A widespread conspiracy suggested that she was pregnant when she had the accident. Let's dig into the revelations from the autopsy in this regard. Was Princess Diana pregnant? The tragic and untimely death of Princess Diana in 1997 sent shockwaves around the world, but in the aftermath of the fatal car crash, an unsettling question began to surface. Could she have been pregnant at the time of her death? This speculation sparked heated debates, fueled by rumors, unanswered questions, and the absence of definitive proof. Dr. Robert Chapman, the British pathologist responsible for her autopsy, firmly stated that there were no visible signs of pregnancy during his examination. Echoing his conclusion, Dr. John Burton, a former coroner for the Queen's household, also confirmed to the Times that he had observed Diana's post-mortem and saw no indication that she was expecting a child. These statements, however, did little to put the speculation to rest.
Princess Diana was pregnant with her second child. It was front-page news in London and all across the UK.
For many, these conclusions raised more questions than answers. Several medical professionals quickly pointed out a fundamental flaw in the assessments. Determining pregnancy based solely on what is visible to the naked eye is not a scientifically reliable method. Dr. Alan Schiller, a professor and chair of pathology at Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York, expressed his disbelief in an interview with Vanity Fair. "This is absurd. You simply don't determine pregnancy that way," he insisted. He explained that if Diana had been in the early stages of pregnancy, it would have been nearly impossible to detect just by looking. A fetus at 1 to 3 weeks would be completely invisible, and even at 6 weeks, it would measure only about 4 or 5 millimeters, about the size of a grain of rice. With this in mind, an even more critical question arose. Did anyone actually perform a proper pregnancy test? A thorough autopsy would typically include a blood or urine test to check for pregnancy hormones, yet Vanity Fair reported that no such test was mentioned in Diana's autopsy records or in the French investigation files. Instead, the speculation about her pregnancy was dismissed purely based on what the doctors could see, without any scientific confirmation. This glaring omission left a gaping hole in the official investigation and opened the door for endless conspiracy theories. If no biological test was ever conducted, how could anyone be certain that she wasn't pregnant? Was this a simple oversight, or was there a deliberate reason why no effort was made to confirm or deny the possibility? Could the truth have been intentionally buried to avoid a scandal? Or was this just another case of careless medical protocol? The lack of concrete answers has kept the mystery alive for decades. With no definitive proof either way,
the problem that the establishment will have with today's story is that they have not allowed a public inquiry into what happened to Diana in this country. And that has fueled already conspiracy theories for the last 6 years.
The debate over whether Princess Diana was carrying a child at the time of her tragic death remains unresolved, leaving room for speculation, intrigue, and an unsettling sense that the full truth may never come to light. The tragic death has been partly blamed on the media. How did the media contribute to the tragic accident? Let's find out. the paparazzi pursuit that ended in tragedy. In the early hours of August 31st, 1997, a black Mercedes-Benz S280 pulled away from the rear entrance of the Ritz Hotel in Paris. It was just past midnight. Princess Diana and her companion, Dodi Fayed, were in the back seats, attempting to slip away unnoticed. The front entrance of the hotel had become a battleground of flashing cameras, with nearly 30 photographers waiting like hunters, stalking their prey. To avoid the chaos, they opted for a discreet departure through Rue Cambon. Alongside them in the vehicle was Trevor Rees-Jones, a trusted member of Fayed's personal security team, seated in the front passenger seat. Behind the wheel was Henri Paul, the hotel's deputy head of security. But none of them, Diana, Fayed, Rees-Jones, or Paul, had fastened their seatbelts. A seemingly minor decision, but one that would soon prove devastating. Their destination was an apartment on Rue Arsène Housset, a short drive away. After weaving through the Parisian streets, the car crossed Place de la Concorde and sped along Cours la Reine and Cours Albert Premier, running parallel to the River Seine. Then they approached the entrance of the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. At precisely 23 minutes past midnight, tragedy struck.
The princess, who spent her life in the relentless glare of the public eye, died in a speeding car in Paris, apparently trying to evade pursuing photographers. Her body was brought home today under a cloudy English sky.
Henri Paul, driving at a dangerously high speed, later estimated to be around 105 kilometers per hour, more than twice the tunnel speed limit of 50 kilometers per hour, lost control of the vehicle. The car reportedly clipped a small white Fiat before veering sharply to the left. In a horrifying instant, the Mercedes crashed head-on into the 13th concrete pillar supporting the tunnel's roof. The impact was catastrophic. The force of the collision crushed the front half of the car, leaving it mangled and unrecognizable. The vehicle then spun violently, slammed into the tunnel wall in reverse, and finally came to a stop, wrecked and lifeless. Unlike many roadways, this tunnel lacked a guardrail, offering no protection from the deadly collision. Witnesses who arrived moments later described the scene as chilling. Smoke curled from the wreckage, the air thick with the acrid smell of burning metal and rubber. Diana and Fayed had set off just minutes earlier. Now their final journey had ended in devastation. Motorcycle-riding paparazzi who had been tailing the vehicle soon caught up to the crash site. Some rushed forward, not with cameras but with their hands, trying to wrench open the damaged doors to help the victims. Others, however, immediately began snapping photographs, immortalizing the tragedy in cold, impersonal frames. Within 10 minutes, at 30 minutes past midnight, police officers arrived at the scene. Soon after, an ambulance pulled up, sirens wailing through the Parisian night. But for some, the sight of photographers capturing the wreckage was unbearable. According to reports, one of the photographers was physically attacked by enraged bystanders, disgusted by their actions. The police acted swiftly. 5 photographers were arrested on the spot, their cameras and film confiscated. Within hours, 2 more were detained, bringing the total to 7. Authorities seized approximately 20 rolls of film, undeniable evidence of the frenzied pursuit that had ended in disaster. Their vehicles were also impounded as investigators scrambled to piece together the moments leading up to the fatal crash. What had begun as a simple attempt to escape the relentless gaze of the press had turned into one of the most shocking events of the 20th century. Princess Diana, beloved around the world, and Dodi Fayed, the man by her side, had set off on a short drive, one that would never reach its destination. That night, in a dark Parisian tunnel, history was rewritten. The tragic event shocked the entire globe. Let's dive into what people said in reaction to Princess Diana's death. Public reaction to Diana's death. Princess Diana's life was one of dazzling fame, deep personal struggles, and an often turbulent relationship with the British media. She was both their greatest fascination and their most tragic victim, This complicated bond with the press reached its most devastating moment on the night of August 31st, 1997. In the early hours, a high-speed chase unfolded in the streets of Paris. Paparazzi on motorcycles swarmed, desperate to snap photos of Diana and her new romantic partner, Dodi Al-Fayed. What began as an attempt to escape the relentless pursuit of photographers ended in catastrophe. News of the crash spread like wildfire, shaking the world to its core. The once glamorous fairy tale princess, who had long captivated hearts across the globe, was gone.
The Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident, and that her partner, Dodi Fayed, has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles.
At just 36 years old, Diana's life was cut tragically short in a horrific accident that also claimed the lives of Dodi and their driver, Henri Paul. As the sun rose over Britain, the nation awoke to an unthinkable reality. Television screens and newspapers carried the devastating headlines. A collective grief like never before swept through the country. Strangers gathered outside Kensington Palace, clutching flowers, lighting candles, and shedding tears for the princess they had come to see as one of their own. Prime Minister Tony Blair, speaking with a solemn heart, gave words to what so many felt. He called her the People's Princess, a simple but powerful phrase that perfectly captured the depth of her connection with ordinary citizens. Diana was not just a royal, she was a symbol of compassion, vulnerability, and transformation. She had walked into the public eye as a shy young woman, seemingly plucked from an aristocratic fairy tale to marry a prince. But over time, she evolved before the world's eyes. She was a devoted mother, a humanitarian, a champion of the sick and the marginalized. She comforted AIDS patients at a time when fear and misinformation surrounded the disease. She walked through landmine fields, risking her safety to bring global awareness to a crisis ignored by many. Historian Ariane Chernock of Boston University reflects on Diana's life, calling it compressed, as if she had lived multiple lifetimes within just 3 decades. The mystery of what could have been lingers, adding to her enduring legend. The fact that she died in her 30s with so much possibility is part of her mystique, Chernock explains. But it wasn't just her early death that made Diana unforgettable. It was the sheer range of roles she took on in such a short time. She wasn't just a princess. She was a woman discovering herself, evolving in full view of the public. Even in death, Diana remained larger than life. The world did not just lose a royal figure. It lost a humanitarian, a mother, and an icon who had, in many ways, redefined modern royalty. The irony of her final moments, that she had been trying to escape the very press that had both fueled and tormented her existence, only added to the tragedy. Today, decades later, Diana's legacy lives on. Her sons, Princes William and Harry, carry forward her commitment to charity and compassion. Her influence can still be felt in the way the world views royalty, not as distant figures trapped in tradition, but as individuals capable of connecting deeply with the people they serve. Diana's story is one of light and shadow, of struggle and triumph, of love and loss, and though her life was brief, her impact remains timeless. Let's dig into the lessons that can be learnt from the tragic death of Princess Diana. Lessons from Diana's tragic death. Princess Diana was one of the most famous women in the world. With her stunning beauty, elegant style, and kind heart, she captured the attention of millions. She was married to Prince Charles, lived in grand palaces, and had access to unimaginable wealth. Many people looked at her life from the outside and assumed she had everything a person could ever want. But behind the dazzling tiaras and glamorous dresses, Diana faced many challenges that made her life far from perfect. Despite her wealth and fame, Diana struggled with deep personal issues. Her marriage to Prince Charles was filled with difficulties, and she often felt lonely and misunderstood. The intense attention from the media made things even worse. Everywhere she went, cameras followed her, flashing endlessly as reporters wrote stories about every little detail of her life, some true, some false. She had little privacy, and her every move was judged by the world. At times, Diana felt trapped, as if she was living in a golden cage. The world saw her as a fairy tale princess, but in reality, she was just a woman searching for love, peace, and happiness. This shows us that money and fame do not guarantee a happy life. They can bring comfort and luxury, but they cannot fill the emptiness inside a person's heart. Diana eventually found joy not in the riches of royalty, but in helping others. She became known for her deep compassion and charitable work. She held the hands of people suffering from diseases, visited orphaned children, and worked tirelessly to raise awareness about important social issues. Through these acts of kindness, she found true fulfillment, not in wealth or popularity, but in making a real difference in people's lives. Her life teaches us an important lesson. Happiness is not about how much money we have or how famous we become. True happiness comes from love, friendship, and finding purpose in what we do. Instead of constantly chasing more wealth or recognition, we should focus on appreciating what we already have. The simple moments, laughing with a friend, helping someone in need, or spending time with family, are what truly bring joy and fulfillment. Princess Diana's story remains a powerful reminder that external success does not always mean internal peace. In the end, what matters most is not how rich or famous we are, but how much love we share and how much good we bring into the world. What do you think about the shocking revelations of Princess Diana's autopsy? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.